Hey there, thank you for tuning in to the Narrative Reading Bible Podcast. My name is Jessica. Today we are diving into Ecclesiastes. Because we haven't covered this book, I'm going to read an introduction to the book and then we will proceed with reading the text, which is presented in the Berean Standard Bible translation. We will be reading from pages 193 to 208. Let's dive in. Introduction to Ecclesiastes. The book of Ecclesiastes captures humanity's quest for purpose in a world of fleeting, often unfulfilling pursuits. Written by an author traditionally identified as Solomon, Ecclesiastes reflects on the emptiness and transience of life under the sun, a phrase symbolizing a life without a relationship with God or a transcendent perspective. Examining the limitations of earthly accomplishments, pleasure, and human wisdom, the book reveals that genuine fulfillment lies in God alone. Its recurring refrain that everything apart from God is meaningless highlights our deep need for redemption and a life grounded in eternal truth. Ecclesiastes opens with the declaration that all is vanity, setting a tone of existential exploration. The author examines wisdom, pleasure, work, and wealth, concluding that none of these pursuits brings lasting satisfaction or ultimate purpose. Wisdom, though valuable, remains limited and cannot overcome mortality or guarantee a meaningful existence. Pleasure, while temporarily satisfying, often leads to emptiness. Work, while necessary, can feel like endless toil with little lasting reward. Wealth, though desirable, cannot be taken beyond the grave and often introduces its own anxieties. Through this exploration, Ecclesiastes exposes the inadequacy of these pursuits to fulfill humanity's deeper spiritual longing. Amid these reflections, Ecclesiastes emphasizes the necessity of revering God within a confusing and often unjust world. The fear of God, understood as profound respect and awe, forms the foundation of a meaningful life. The author asserts that true wisdom requires acknowledging human limitations and God's sovereignty. This reverence, expressed by keeping God's commandments, offers a sense of direction and purpose, even in an arbitrary, fallen world. Ecclesiastes teaches that while we cannot control or fully understand life, we can find a more profound sense of purpose and peace through a life grounded in respect and obedience to God. Ecclesiastes ultimately underscores humanity's limitations and the need to anchor life in God's wisdom. The book concludes with the timeless counsel, fear God and keep his commandments, affirming that reverence and obedience define a life well lived. While Ecclesiastes may appear pessimistic, it provides a crucial counterbalance within the Bible's wisdom literature by realistically addressing the disillusionment and futility people experience when they look to worldly achievements for fulfillment. By revealing the emptiness of these pursuits, Ecclesiastes cultivates a longing for something greater, a redemptive solution that transcends life's inherent vanity. This longing finds fulfillment in Jesus Christ, whose redemptive work provides ultimate meaning and fulfillment. Ecclesiastes, by presenting life's futility apart from God, anticipates the redemptive hope that Christ brings. Through his life, death, and resurrection, Jesus addresses the brokenness and vanity of life under the sun. He offers a restored relationship with God, infusing human life with eternal significance. In Christ, believers discover purpose beyond temporary pleasures and achievements, embracing the eternal hope of redemption and a new creation. Through Jesus, the seemingly mundane aspects of life take on new meaning as opportunities for spiritual growth and service. The promise of eternal life with God reframes the frustrations and injustices of this world, making them temporary obstacles within a larger redemptive story. Ultimately, the message of Ecclesiastes points forward to Christ, who transforms the human experience from one existential striving into one of purposeful, redeemed living. And in Christ, believers find their purpose in their earthly pursuits, grounded in the eternal hope of life with God and the promise of restored creation.
Ecclesiastes. These are the words of the teacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Futility of futilities, says the teacher, futility of futilities, everything is futile. What does a man gain from all his labor at which he toils under the sun? Generations come and generations go, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun sets, it hurries back to where it rises. The wind blows southward, then turns northward, round and round it swirls, ever returning on its course. All the rivers flow into the sea, yet the sea is never full. To the place from which the streams come, there again they flow. All things are wearisome more than one can describe. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear content with hearing. What has been will be again, and what has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. Is there a case where one can say, "Look, this is new"? It has already existed in the ages before us. There is no remembrance of those who came before, and those yet to come will not be remembered by those who follow after. I, the teacher, was king over Israel in Jerusalem, and I set my mind to seek and explore by wisdom all that is done under heaven. What a heavy burden God has laid upon the sons of men to occupy them. I have seen all the things that are done under the sun, and have found them all to be futile, a pursuit of the wind. What is crooked cannot be straightened, and what is lacking cannot be counted. I said to myself, "Behold, I have grown and increased in wisdom beyond all those before me who were over Jerusalem, and my mind has observed a wealth of wisdom and knowledge." So I set my mind to know wisdom and madness and folly. I learned that this too is a pursuit of the wind. For with much wisdom comes much sorrow, and as knowledge grows, grief increases. I said to myself, "Come now, I will test you with pleasure, enjoy what is good." But it proved to be futile. I said of laughter, "It is folly," and of pleasure, "What does it accomplish?" I sought to cheer my body with wine and to embrace folly, my mind still guiding me with wisdom, until I could see what was worthwhile for men to do under heaven during the few days of their lives. I expanded my pursuits. I built houses and planted vineyards for myself. I made gardens and parks for myself where I planted all kinds of fruit trees. I built reservoirs to water my groves of flourishing trees. I acquired men servants and maid servants, and servants were born in my house. I also owned more herds and flocks than anyone in Jerusalem before me, and I accumulated for myself silver and gold and the treasure of kings and provinces. I gathered to myself male and female singers and the delights of the sons of men, many concubines. So I became great and surpassed all in Jerusalem who had preceded me, and my wisdom remained with me. Anything my eyes desired, I did not deny myself. I refused my heart no pleasure. For my heart took delight in all my work, and this was the reward for all my labor. Yet when I considered all the works that my hands had accomplished and what I had toiled to achieve, I found everything to be futile, a pursuit of the wind. There was nothing to be gained under the sun. Then I turned to consider wisdom and madness and folly. For what more can the king's successor do than what has already been accomplished? And I saw that wisdom exceeds folly just as light exceeds darkness. The wise man has eyes in his head, but the fool walks in darkness. Yet I also came to realize that one fate overcomes them both. So I said to myself, "The fate of the fool will also befall me. What then have I gained by being wise?" And I said to myself that this too is futile. For there is no lasting remembrance of the wise, just as with a fool, seeing that both will be forgotten in the days to come. Alas, the wise man will die just like the fool. So I hated life, because the work that is done under the sun was grievous to me. For everything is futile and a pursuit of the wind. I hated all for which I had toiled under the sun, because I must leave it to the man who comes after me. And who knows whether that man will be wise or foolish? Yet he will take over all the labor at which I have worked skillfully under the sun. This too is futile. So my heart began to despair over all the labor that I had done under the sun. When there is a man who has labored with wisdom, knowledge, and skill, and he must give his portion to a man who has not worked for it, this too is futile and a great evil. For what does a man get for all the toil and striving with which he labors under the sun? Indeed, all his days are filled with grief, and his task is sorrowful. Even at night his mind does not rest. This too is futile. Nothing is better for a man than to eat and drink and enjoy his work. I have also seen that this is from the hand of God. For apart from him, who can eat and who can find enjoyment? To the man who is pleasing in his sight he gives wisdom and knowledge and joy. But to the sinner he assigns the task of gathering and accumulating that which he will hand over to one who pleases God. This too is futile and a pursuit of the wind. To everything there is a season, and a time for every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to count as lost, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. What does the worker gain from his toil? I have seen the burden that God has laid upon the sons of men to occupy them. He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the hearts of men, yet they cannot fathom the work that God has done from beginning to end. I know that there is nothing better for them than to rejoice and do good while they live, and also that every man should eat and drink and find satisfaction in all his labor. This is the gift of God. I know that everything God does endures forever. Nothing can be added to it or taken from it. God does it so that they should fear Him. What exists has already been, and what will be has already been, for God will call to account what is past. Furthermore, I saw under the sun that in the place of judgment there is wickedness, and in the place of righteousness there is wickedness. I said in my heart, God will judge the righteous and the wicked, since there is a time for every activity and every deed. I said to myself, as for the sons of men, God tests them so that they may see for themselves that they are but beasts. For the fates of both men and beasts are the same. As one dies, so dies the other. They all have the same breath. Man has no advantage over the animals, since everything is futile. All go to one place. All come from dust, and all return to dust. Who knows if the spirit of man rises upward and the spirit of the animal descends into the earth? I have seen that there is nothing better for a man than to enjoy his work, because that is his lot. For who can bring him to see what will come after him? Again I looked, and I considered all the oppression taking place under the sun. I saw the tears of the oppressed, and they had no comforter. The power lay in the hands of their oppressors, and there was no comforter. So I admired the dead who had already died, above the living who are still alive. But better than both is he who has not yet existed, who has not seen the evil that is done under the sun. I saw that all labor and success spring from a man's envy of his neighbor. This too is futile and a pursuit of the wind. The fool folds his hands and consumes his own flesh. Better one handful with tranquility than 2 handfuls with toil and pursuit of the wind. Again I saw futility under the sun. There is a man all alone, without even a son or brother. And though there is no end to his labor, his eyes are still not content with his wealth. For whom do I toil and bereave my soul of enjoyment? This too is futile, a miserable task. 2 are better than 1, because they have a good return for their labor. For if one falls down, his companion can lift him up, but pity the one who falls without another to help him up. Again, if 2 lie down together, they will keep warm, but how can one keep warm alone? And though one may be overpowered, 2 can resist. Moreover, a cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. Better is a poor but wise youth than an old but foolish king who no longer knows how to take a warning. For the youth has come from the prison to the kingship, though he was born poor in his own kingdom. I saw that all who lived and walked under the sun followed this second one, the youth who succeeded the king. There is no limit to all the people who were before them, yet the successor will not be celebrated by those who come even later. This too is futile and a pursuit of the wind. Guard your steps when you go to the house of God. Draw near to listen rather than to offer the sacrifice of fools who do not know that they do wrong. Do not be quick to speak, and do not be hasty in your heart to utter a word before God. After all, God is in heaven and you are on earth, so let your words be few. As a dream comes through many cares, so the speech of a fool comes with many words. When you make a vow to God, do not delay in fulfilling it, because he takes no pleasure in fools. Fulfill your vow. It is better not to vow than to make a vow and not fulfill it. Do not let your mouth cause your flesh to sin, and do not tell the messenger that your vow was a mistake. Why should God be angry with your words and destroy the work of your hands? For as many dreams bring futility, so do many words. Therefore, fear God. If you see the oppression of the poor and the denial of justice and righteousness in the province, do not be astonished at the matter. For one official is watched by a superior, and others higher still are over them. The produce of the earth is taken by all. The king himself profits from the fields. He who loves money is never satisfied by money, and he who loves wealth is never satisfied by income. This too is futile. When good things increase, so do those who consume them. What then is the profit to the owner, except to behold them with his eyes? The sleep of the worker is sweet, whether he eats little or much, but the abundance of the rich man permits him no sleep. There is a grievous evil I have seen under the sun, wealth hoarded to the harm of its owner, or wealth lost in a failed venture. So when that man has a son, there is nothing to pass on. As a man came from his mother's womb, so he will depart again, naked as he arrived. He takes nothing for his labor to carry in his hands. This too is a grievous evil. Exactly as a man is born, so he will depart. What does he gain as he toils for the wind? Moreover, all his days he eats in darkness, with much sorrow, sickness, and anger. Here is what I have seen to be good and fitting, to eat and drink and to find satisfaction in all the labor one does under the sun during the few days of life that God has given him, for this is his lot. Furthermore, God has given riches and wealth to every man, and he has enabled him to enjoy them, to accept his lot, and to rejoice in his labor. This is a gift from God. For a man seldom considers the days of his life, because God keeps him occupied with the joy of his heart.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. We will wrap up our reading of Ecclesiastes with pages 201 to 208 of Book 4 of the Narrative Reading Bible. Until then, take care and God bless.